Well, let's have a look at the latest coronavirus figures for the UK. And a further 15,650 cases of COVID-19 were recorded over the last 24 hours. Now, that's 3,330 fewer than on Thursday.
Another 136 people have died within 28 days of testing positive for the virus. That's two less than Thursday's total.
But it means in total that 43,429 people have now died within 28 days of a positive test.
There have also been 844 hospital admissions reported, up 47 on yesterday. Let's speak to the University of Exeter's senior clinical lecturer, Bharat Pankania. Good morning to you. We know that the R number has risen slightly to between 1.3 to 1.5. This clearly indicative of the rate that the virus is spreading. At what point does it have to be before you would advise and the government would look at a national lockdown?
I think the government hasn't got the desire to have a national lockdown. So no matter, what R number we have, or what I would prefer to say, the number of new cases, because the R number can be very imprecise. So the number of new cases, but what we are doing is what we call this patchwork effort at creating tiers 1, 2, 3. But essentially, I agree with you that we really do need some drastic action, but that drastic action has to be nationwide. A little patchwork quilt of, Liverpool in severe lockdown and next door Manchester not in severe lockdown really won't work.
Why are you so critical of the tier system when different areas are experiencing the rate of the infection rising completely differently? And we know that in the northwest there has been a particular problem which is very different to the experience in other areas. So surely they need to be treated differently.
I would love to. I would love for it to be like as you described. Unfortunately, we're an island nation and a highly populated, high-density nation. So, to be truthful, what happens in Manchester happens in Liverpool, and what happens in Liverpool also happens in Manchester in a given time. And therefore, because it is very difficult to segregate little areas of the United Kingdom, we need to either suppress the number of cases nationwide and then sort out our homework. We haven't really sorted out our homework with regards to giving, for example, the local regions and the local authorities the autonomy to both oversee the testing and the tracing.
We know that Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, he's resisting the call from government to move to Tier 3. Do you understand his reasoning behind that? Because he's saying even with the scientists, they're suggesting that moving to Tier 3 wouldn't solve all of the problems anyway.
Yes, and what Andy Burnham is referring to is this stop-start and then back to normal isn't going to work. And I totally agree. It's not going to work. We're wasting a lot of money and heartache and stress because we are not sorting out our homework. And the homework is sort out your testing mechanisms, your operations, and your tracing mechanisms. And by the way, by the time you have a huge number of cases, tracing becomes almost not doable. So we're almost verging on, our tracing system won't work, even if you try to sort it out now because of the large number of cases. So that's what Andy is saying. Look, you haven't sorted out your homework. We haven't got proper control over testing, tracing, and giving us the autonomy to manage this outbreak ourselves regionally.
So you're advocating a national circuit breaker to give us some respite, some time to sort out all the areas that you suggest need attention?
With provisos, because a national lockdown without provisos is symbolic, meaningless, expensive, and a waste of time, money, and a lot of effort. So my provisos are that whilst you're in a shutdown mode, you sort out the homework. And this is very, very important. And the most important bit of the homework, by the way, is that you inculcate amongst all the people that infection control is very, very important. So when you come out of those lockdown measures, you exercise extreme caution, be very careful, and you exercise all your mask wearing, hand washing and distancing, and not creating new groups of people that you circulate with. Because if you don't do your personal prevention items as well, then you go back to square one.
So we could be in a never-ending cycle of going into lockdown, coming out, and then having to go back into lockdown again.
Unless we do our homework. And it is sort of almost depressing because you know the inevitable, and yet we're not grasping that nettle to say, yeah, the case numbers will go up because, you introduce infections from abroad, you go abroad, you mingle with new groups of people. Of course, the virus doesn't change its behavior. We know how it behaves. So we need to change our behaviors to counteract getting infected and creating new cases.
Good point that you make. We do need to change our behaviour. Barrett Pankania, Senior Clinical Lecturer at the University of Exeter. Thank you.